was his reaction. He was asked, what's your relationship with God? He said, I do good with evangelicals. Asked about his prayer life, he says, people come to him and say, sir, I pray for you every night. Yeah. Proving an extraordinary ability to sound clueless after all these years on the most basic questions of faith. And what's your relationship with God? And talk about your prayer life for two of the most basic questions. Join us now, NBC News National Affairs analyst John Heilemann. He's a partner and chief political columnist at Puck. I know he and his former partner Mark Halperin also asked Donald Trump some questions about faith in 2016. New Testament or Old Testament? And his answer was both. What's your favorite Bible verse? Equal. What's your favorite Bible verse? Oh, I don't want to talk. And David Brody at CBN asked him if God's forgiven him, and he said, well, I don't pray to God for forgiveness. There's no reason for me to be forgiven. This is the man, of course, who is claiming massive support, because he's getting it, among self-described evangelicals. John Heilemann, please explain that to us all.
Thank you for confronting with one of the great mysteries of life in modern politics, Joe. Look, you had the authors of that book about Roe on earlier today, and I do think there's that the change that took place that you pointed to in the religious right went from essentially the political people kind of guiding the movement and taking it into a new place to where it has become more recently, which is that the religious people kind of took over, in some sense, the conservative movement, and they started to channel their desires through political instruments. That's what you see. What Trump became for a lot of people in the anti-abortion movement and more broadly on the values right, Trump became a totally an instrument of their to advance their causes. And I think it's one of the most cynical things I've seen in politics. You think about, people talk about true believers and talk about the faithful being single issue voters or blinded by their beliefs and ideologically driven, kind of extremists. In a lot of ways, they became more instrumental than almost any faction in American politics. They looked at Trump and said, well, we know he's not a Christian. We know he doesn't believe anything he says, but this guy is our ticket to getting done what we want to get done. Overturning Roe is one thing, but across the board, he just became, I think, the tool by which they could achieve things that they had long wanted to achieve and hadn't been able to achieve. And they turned out to be right about that, but they made a very deep, very cynical deal with the devil. And I don't mean to call Trump the devil here, but they made a Faustian bargain here and said, well, the man's not one of us, but who cares? He's going to win. We'll get it done. He'll do what we tell him to.
But they were making that bargain even before Donald Trump. I mean, again, when Paul Weyrich and Jerry Falwell and Richard Viguerie say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to actually turn abortion not only into a key political issue for evangelicals, we're going to turn it into a religious issue. So you have the Southern Baptist Church going from being pro-choice to pro-life. The Southern Baptist Church and other mainstream Protestant denominations going from being pro-choice are quite on the issue to becoming pro-life. That's one step. But it moves forward now to where it becomes the most important issue. These political issues become the most important political issue. So if you talk to people of faith like Russell Moore and others, they would tell you, Pete Wehner, they would tell you the so-called deal with the devil was the deal evangelical leaders made some time ago when they decided to replace spiritual goals with secular goals.
Right.
We are not going to fight the spiritual battles and try to win people's souls. That's not going to be our primary focus for a lot of these evangelical leaders we hear with a national audience. Their primary focus is going to be on the secular, whether that's gaining and keeping political power or telling adherents how to become rich, the so-called prosperity gospel, which, again, both of those are completely opposite of what Jesus preached about over 3 years.
And I will say the only place where, just to put a fine point on it here, I don't think that the Christian right thought that Ronald Reagan was a spiritual vandal. I think they thought he was one of them. I think that they thought that George W. Bush, for example, was genuinely born again. I think they thought that Mitt Romney was a person who took his spiritual life seriously. I think that even though that the demands of faith had been to some extent yoked to politics prior to Donald Trump is the most gratuitous kind of at the extreme outgrowth of the thing you're talking about, Joe, where they basically looked at a guy and said, I think collectively these are not stupid people in this movement. There's some stupid people everywhere, but there was a calculated thing where the Christian right looked at Trump, knew full well that he was not one of them, did not believe the same things they believed, did not go to church, was probably privately pro-choice, was someone who had done all kinds of things, some of them we heard about in this trial over the last 7 or 8 weeks, who'd done all kinds of things that they would find morally depraved and unacceptable and sinful, and that he made no real effort to try to even pretend to be one of them when he would answer these questions the way he'd answer them. And yet they said, we don't care, because this is a winning ticket for us. And with him under our thumb, we'll be able to get that Supreme Court majority that we've so long wanted. And as I said before, they got it.
And the old line, we elected a president, not a saint. They're willing to look the other way on a lot of stuff because they're getting what they want out of it. John, people always ask me, where can I get more Heilman? And today we have an answer for that. The Impolitic podcast with John Heilman launching today. Tell us about it.
Well, I had this podcast for a few years called Hell and High Water that I put into the deep freeze. I was like Han Solo. At the end of the Empire Strikes Back, I got frozen in podcast amber for about a year, and then when I moved over to Puck, we decided to relaunch it under this new title. Call it same name as the column is same name as the column goes under. Impolitic. It's not only been relaunched as of this morning, talking about the Trump trial with Andrew Weissman, but also it's expanded. It's twice a week rather than once a week. So, like New York, a town so nice they named it twice. New York. This Impolitic going to happen every Tuesday morning, every Friday morning. Puck, Odyssey together. Check it out.
It's called Impolitic. Download it now. Talking
politics and culture and all kinds of stuff. Not just politics.
Yeah.
Talk about some broader things, some business, some tech, some entertainment, other things. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to be a little bit Willie Geist, a little bit Jonathan Lemire. If I can bring those two things together on the podcast, let's talk about a blockbuster combo.
Wow, no one ever has aspired to heights so great.
I know. I'm fueled by a vaulting ambition.